Minneapolis. Doing a little campaign stuff. So if you want to vote little in 2020, we'll all win big. My goal is to expel the Jews by 2022. Expel the Jew by 22. So we're going to go ahead and go live to the good people of Minneapolis. I wonder if there are many Jews here. God knows these nation-wrecking Jews are doing everything they can to destroy the nice neighborhoods I've seen around here. And after seeing what I've seen and heard what I've heard from the good people of these northern states, I'm willing to go for full-blown expulsion of the Jews from this country. So this is a campaign promise. Elect me to the presidency, I will expel the Jews from this country. So we can have civil rights for all. Had any reactions yet, but we'll see. City Hall should be coming up right here. It's a beautiful building. We're in downtown Minneapolis, the Twin City here with St. Paul, Minnesota. All right. Try and find some people on the street. I was hoping for more foot traffic. Oh well. Let's see if we can't stir up some voters. Now, I don't know how many bleeding heart Democrat voters you got here in Minnesota, but I'm hoping to win their vote. Stop the genocide in Palestine that's being funded with U.S. taxpayer dollars, and get Israel to repay all the aid they've ever extorted from us, and expel all those Jews that have been helping Israel treat our country like a cow for the milking. Their word for us is goyim or cattle, and I'm done being fleeced and milked like livestock. I don't know about you, but I don't want another one of my pennies going over the Middle East for the Jews to kill Christians with. Oh, we got some voters here. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Are you registered to vote here in Minnesota? Not registered to vote here. In another United States state or no?
No.
No? Oh, well, enjoy your vacation.
Yeah.
Tell your friends that live here to vote for me on the presidential election in 2020. I'm going to expel the Jews from the country.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. Well, they're just visiting, but they're going to tell their friends. How many viewers we got here? This is going to get showed, by the way. You better be OBSing this, because this will be showed. Jews control YouTube. I've got a picture I can show you on Gab of the head of YouTube, the CEO, with Benjamin Netanyahu. Oh, good afternoon, ladies. Are you voters here in Minnesota?
So are you.
Oh, no English. That's okay. It's okay. The message is universal, but we only had room for one language on the sign here. All goyim need to be free. Well, I mean, you'd go downtown, you'd hope for more people, right? Very, very small crowds today. Just groups of two at most.
Where is City Hall?
This is City Hall right here.
Oh, this building?
Yeah, let's go around the front. I think this is City Hall. Let me take a look. Yeah, this is City Hall right here.
Here comes some voters.
Oh, good afternoon, ladies. Are you registered to vote here in Minnesota?
Yep.
Well, my name's Patrick Little, Marine Corps veteran of Afghanistan. Good. And I'd like to talk about Jewish control of our news media, our government, our foreign affairs, and the theft of 400 to 600 pounds of strategic nuclear resources from the New Nick facility in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to give you a guess here. 3 guesses. Egypt, Lebanon, or Israel? Which one of those countries do you think stole 400 to 600 pounds of weapons-grade uranium in the early 1960s? Creating a Superfund site that is so badly polluted that it's uninhabitable now with strategic...
Lebanon.
Nope. It was Israel. Can you guess which country is currently killing ethnic and religious minorities in Palestine? Is it Syria, Israel, or Egypt? You want to guess who is funding ISIS? So if you email me at panelittlerevolution.us, that's my presidential campaign address. I'm running against Trump as a Democrat. I can explain to you and give you the proof that Israel is funding ISIS and that they were even talking about the need for the United States to fund ISIS. Now, I would say, well, that's just an Israel problem, but then I go in and I look and I see that every single national news station is controlled, edited, produced, directed, and owned and CEO'd by Jewish U.S. citizens that have dual citizenship with Israel. So I went for the longest time to say, we got to get rid of the dual citizens, got to get rid of the Israelis that have passports here. I've done so much research, I've realized that the problem is a Jewish problem and not an Israeli problem. I did further research and realized they've been kicked out of 1,000 countries. I've never found another people that have been kicked out of more than a few countries. I looked all over the world for a group. The closest thing I could find was the Roma or the Gypsies. They've been kicked out of, I think, 3 or 4 countries. This is the only group of people they expelled from country after country after country. Let me tell you about another country they took over before they took over the United States. The Jews took over the Soviet Union, Russia, in 1917, 1918. So Jews were less than 1% of the Soviet Union's population at the time of the Red Revolution there in 1917. Can you guess what percentage of the Soviet government Jews were in the 1920s and 30s?
No.
So they're 1% of the population. I think maybe 1, 2, 5% of the Soviet Union's government, the equivalent of senator, congressman, elite commissars, elite government posts, like congressmen. What percentage of those government posts do you think Jews held? Ethnic Jews.
I couldn't tell you.
85%.
Oh, wow.
Now, do you want to know what laws this 85% ethnically Jewish government passed? They outlawed marriage. They said all women became public property. They killed every single priest in Russia, Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania.
Jewish people did that?
85% of the government was Jewish. I mean, so if you're 1% of the population and 85% of the government, you're going around committing genocides. I'm going to call these Jewish crimes against humanity. Now, can you guess how many people this 85% Jewish government killed through starvation, gulag, and death camp, and forced labor by the White Sea Canal? So by the beginning of World War II, before the opening of hostilities in Poland, you want to guess how many millions of people this 85% Jewish government killed?
Quite a few.
30 million. So you learned all about the Holocaust in school, right? Every year, Holocaust month, all that stuff. How many million is that supposed to be? They throw this number around a lot. It's always 6 million, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's assume that number is true. I have some problems with that number, but let's assume it's true. 30 million is a lot more than 6 million, right? Pretty crazy, right? Now, let me ask you a few questions. So, they outlawed Christianity in the Soviet Union in the 1920s and 30s. Can you guess which religion they created a separate state for in the Soviet Union where people could go practice their religion where no one else was allowed to practice religion anywhere in the Soviet Union? You want to guess what religion that was, what ethnicity that was? It was Jews. They were granted a large area near Siberia. So they didn't have all their rabbis killed. They didn't have all of their aldermen killed.
They sent them.
But they killed all of the Christians that would not renounce Christianity. Now, not only did they outlaw the possession of firearms for private citizens, they also mandated that all women between the ages of, 14 or 16 and 40? 14 or 16. It was either between the ages of 14 or 16 and 40, all women in Russia had to register for sexual vouchers. So new members to the Communist Party were given vouchers to formerly married women. All marriages were abolished. Women became state property, and especially the people that used to go to Christian churches got knocks on the door. Knock, knock, knock. This is your 85% probability. Jewish commissar at the door. We have new joins to the Communist Party here in Russia here in 1923, 1932, you name it. And their reward for joining the party and swearing their oath of loyalty to this 85% Jewish government is access to your woman who lives here who used to be called your wife. Now, up to 25, 30 vouchers could be redeemed per night per woman.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no.
Now, 85% of the Communist Party was what race? So, literally, the Jews turned all the women of the Soviet Union into their whores. And I would like to point the finger towards the Me Too movement now. So there's a lot of women stepping forward about Jews that molested them in Hollywood when they were children, right? Can you guess the ethnicity of almost every single one of these producers and directors? I'm going to give you a hint here. This ethnicity is overrepresented by 72,000% relative to whites in this country in Hollywood for directors, producers, and ownership of movie studios. Guess Which race of man has been doing most of the child raping in Hollywood? Jewish. Harvey Weinstein is a... Yes, he's a Jew. And it's not just a faith, it's also a religion. Did you know it's not just a race, it's also a faith? Did you know to move to Israel, let's say that this gentleman here was a rabbi, an Orthodox rabbi, and he converted me, circumcised me, and I went through all the rituals, and I became a card-carrying Orthodox Jew. Do you think I'd be allowed to move to Israel? You know what you have to pass to move to Israel? It's not a faith test. It's a DNA test. Woo! Do you know what they do to black Jews in Israel? Since the 1950s, it used to be a lot worse. Now they just forcefully inject them with birth control. If you want to be a black female in Palestine, occupied Palestine or Israel, you must submit to forced, supervised birth control injections. Do you know how the Israeli Jews used to sterilize blacks in the 1940s and 1950s? Radiation aimed at the testicles. So what they did is they took the radiation guns you'd use to test someone's teeth, and they'd aim them right at the young black boys' testicles and power it on to full strength. They told them they were checking them for cancer and parasites. Pretty crazy, right? Do you know what the motto of the Mossad is translated to English? This is the Israeli intelligence agency, their version of the CIA and FBI all over the world. By deception we wage war. Interesting. Now, I'm going to quote a fact to you here. I'm going to chop the pants off you here, and I'm quoting Minister Louis Farrakhan here. Now, he's not a big fan of white people most of the time, but I did read some facts from him that I didn't believe, and I went ahead and looked these facts up. Can you guess what percentage of ethnic Jews in this country, the United States, owned African slaves before the Civil War? What percentage? 40% of them. Do you know what percentage of European descended or white people in this country owned slaves before the Civil War? 0.8%, and this is according to the 1860 U.S. Census, where it was not yet politically incorrect to talk about this stuff. So that's pretty crazy, right? That means the Jew is 50 times more likely to have an ancestor that owns slaves than a white man, right? Crazy. Now, Minister Farrakhan talks about this continuously, and he gets demonized by the media, right? Why do you think he gets demonized by the media? Do you want to guess what ethnicity owns all of the major news stations? You think maybe Fox News isn't controlled by Jews, right? It's conservative, right? Well, can you guess what type of synagogue is attended by the Murdochs? Orthodox. They're not just Jews, they're the most observant type. Now, what about CNN? They're liberal, you know, they couldn't be on board with the genocide in Palestine that's being committed against ethnic and religious minorities, right? You'd be wrong. That's Zucker. That's also a Zionist Jew. What about the New York Times, the most famous newspaper in America? You think they couldn't control that too, right? It's controlled by the Sulzberger family. Now, you know about the Iraq War. Why did we go into the Iraq in 2003 and 4? Now, this is where the news really comes into play. Could you guess?
Don't get me started on that. I'm from a military family.
Me too. I'm a Marine Corps veteran of Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah.
So, what was the story on why we went into Iraq, right? Weapons of mass destruction. Saddam has nuclear enrichment centrifuges, aluminum pipes for making bombs, yellow cake uranium. He has anthrax. He has all these biological weapons, all these chemical weapons.
I would say probably there was some dissatisfaction with the way Ishmael was dispersing funds. Ishmael was using funds.
I don't know who Ishmael is.
That's surprising because you sound very knowledgeable, and I'm sure that you are.
Was he Israeli or American?
Ishmael?
Yeah.
Well, think about Ishmael now. Whose son? That's Abraham's son, but who was his mother?
Oh, no, I'm talking about 2003, 2004.
Yeah, I'm talking about the same Ishmael. I'm talking about his sons.
Oh, you're talking about the Zionists, too.
But
well, anyhow, thank you, sir. I'm doing current events right now. I appreciate your time, though. So the important thing to remember here is that there was an $11 million reward. $11 million reward for any Iraqi citizen. And they were starving to death at the time. Millions of Iraqi women and children and elderly died of starvation and lack of medical treatment because of the embargo that our Jewish-occupied government placed on Iraq. Guess how many of those starving Iraqi people were able to collect that $11 million reward that all of those Jewish news media outlets told us were going to there was going to be just piles of nuclear weapons. chemical weapons and biological weapons to the roof in that country. Guess how many people were able to collect that reward?
None.
None. You think how many people you think went out to the desert looking for that $11 million bounty? And it wasn't, they didn't say the first one to find it, they said anyone who could find it. So, do you know what country provided that intelligence to Tony Blair and George W. Bush? Can you guess the country? Give me a hint, the name of the agency is Mossad. It means by deception we wage war. So yes, those were falsified Israeli intelligence reports. We've got tens of thousands of wounded, traumatic brain injury, amputees that all went to die for Israel. You know how many Israeli troops deployed to destabilize the neighbor that they wanted us to? Yeah, 0. Can you guess how many Israeli snipers were shooting American troops pretending to be Syrians in Western Iraq? We're still trying to figure that out, and if you vote for me and I get into office, we're going to figure out exactly how many of our servicemen were shot by Israeli snipers pretending to be Syrians. Can you guess which countries currently do not have a Jewish-controlled central bank? And by that I'm referring to the Rothschild conglomerate, that also includes our Federal Reserve here. Well, right now Iran, Syria, and North Korea don't have Jewish central banks. Pretty crazy. You hear a lot of stuff about these countries in the news, right?
Venezuela too, is that right?
Venezuela, hold on, I thought they do now. They still don't have one?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Okay. Well, the point I'm making is before Gaddafi was killed, can you guess whether or not his country had a Jewish central bank? So he was one of the very small list of countries that didn't have. Can you guess whether or not Saddam had a Jewish central bank? He did not. Do you think Syria has one?
Oh, sure.
They don't have a Jewish central bank.
Oh, wow.
They don't. That's why the U.S. is trying to invade and destabilize them. Also, Israel's illegally occupying against UN orders the Golan Heights that is occupied land. So they're not just occupying indigenous Palestinian land, killing the Christian and Muslim religious and ethnic minorities there. They're also occupying illegally land in Syria.
I don't mean to cut you off,
Oh,
but
yeah.
my knees are really sore.
Well, it was a pleasure to meet you. If you're from a military family, I'm a Marine Corps veteran of Afghanistan, and I believe this is the only solution to the Jewish wars of foreign aggression that we've been exposed to in this country. You're welcome. Have a great day. All right. So we've got some warm reception. We are on our way to remove the Jew in 22. We're talking full-blown expulsion, baby. This is going to be trip number 1001 round the merry-go-round for these nation-wrecking Jews. This isn't the first time. This is normal behavior. You look at history, this is the only thing that can be done, unless you want to do some stuff that our grandchildren probably wouldn't forgive us for. So we're just going to go ahead and expel the Jews. With your vote, we're going to get that done. Don't feel bad about it. It's something our ancestors had to do over and over and over again. Whether it's Martin Luther or pretty much every pope that held the throne before Vatican II, all of the religious leaders of the West would agree with me. You must remove the Jew from your society or else they will destroy it. Martin Luther, the man who founded Protestant Christianity, said that the next time a Jew asked him to include him in his church, after 20, 30 years trying to make honest conversions of these Jews to his faith, he said, the next Jew that tries to join my church, I will say, very well, I'll baptize you in the name of Abraham, toss you off the top of a bridge into a river after I tie a stone around your neck. This is what the founder of Protestant Christianity had to say about the Jews. They cannot be saved. They're a dishonest people. Every pope leading up to Vatican II said the same thing. You cannot make honest converts of Jews. And actually, the last pope to ever challenge Jewish power was the predecessor to Pope John Paul II. Guess how many days he stayed alive on the throne? Less than 2 weeks. Do you know why he was killed? Why they put that white smoke up the chimney so quickly one time after the next? Because he wanted to remove the Jews from the Vatican Bank that had taken it over in the 1820s after the Napoleonic Wars. So, yeah, if you go back before the Jewish takeover of our government, our media, and our cultural institutions, removing the Jew was something that every country had to do once every few decades. It was like, you know, you go into the woods and you check yourself for Jews or ticks, and you remove them. This is the normal behavior. If they didn't control your television and your movie screen, you would not hesitate to agree with me. Oh, good afternoon, sir. Would you like to talk about Jewish power in the United States? My name's Patrick Little. I'm running for United States President. I'd like you to vote for me so I can remove the Jew. No? Okay. I don't think he wants to help me with Jew removal in 2022, but we're going to get there. He'll get on the bandwagon. You got to name the Jew. You've got to name the Jew. You gotta name that Hebrew. Let's make some campaign songs here. So, I thought the city hall would be hopping by now. You know what? Hey, cameraman, are there any financial districts around here, maybe in the Midwest, we can hit up on Monday? What about New York City? How about I go hold this sign in New York City? You guys want me to go name the Jew and talk about expelling the Jew in New York City? The Viper's Nest. We're talking about the rat's nest. It's full of those rat-faced demons that destroy countries. I'll head down there next, but it's looking like there isn't much of a response here, so we're gonna get going.
We're getting a lot of yeses to that.
So go name the rat-faced demons in New York City?
Yeah, that one.
All right. I'm going to be coming live to you, naming the Jew from New York City. What do you say, within the next week, cameramen?
Possibly.
This is Patrick Little. I'm your presidential candidate in 2020. Either vote for me in 2020 or torch your house. Those are the only two options you got. Take it easy, and remember,